check this out. We've buried the lead here at CBSN. This is dash cam video showing a streak of light, and I'm doing quote marks with my fingers, over Southern California skies Tuesday night. Witnesses across hundreds of miles reported seeing this green fireball. U.S. Strategic Command says it was likely not human-made. The bright object does not appear to be among the satellites it tracks. 1 + 1 + 1 equals aliens. I'm just saying.
I think it's the Never Trump movie.
I mean, what is this doing in the C block? I am now conscientiously objecting to my own show. I want my all-star panel weighing in on this. Aliens, yes or no, folks? Let's go. Let's get to this. That's we'll have any news as it develops from this.
That was just one of the many storm warnings we saw yesterday. There were over 300 storm reports across 8 states from Tuesday's severe weather system. Multiple tornadoes were reported in Texas, Indiana, and Kansas. Here's a look at the one in Mayfield, Kansas. That's actually a rogue tornado you're looking at. Luckily, there were no deaths or injuries. Winds were something else with these storms. We did have winds as high as 70 miles per hour, but the hail, that was pretty large as well.
This is crazy hail.
Yeah, that is some pretty crazy hail. And you know, the crazier thing is that wasn't even close to the biggest hail that we had on Tuesday. Tuesday was a big hail day, close to 200 reports of hail across different parts of the country. I mean, you know, there were parts of Missouri that dealt with it in the morning, early afternoon, and then it was the plains into the late afternoon and the evening. And gosh, I mean, we're talking baseball-sized hail. I mean, look at this. One of those cans is about 2.5 inches in diameter. So that's easily some baseball-sized hail there, about 2.75 inches to be exact. Now, a lot of people wonder, how does hail actually form? Well, it's really, really simple. You basically just start with tiny raindrops, and then eventually those raindrops get forced into a higher part of the storm because of a strong updraft. So they basically just become big icicles because it's so darn cold up there. They just continue to accrete ice all over them until eventually the hailstone gets big enough that it literally just falls all the way to the ground. By the way, the largest hailstone ever recorded was 8 inches in diameter.
Meanwhile, some 60 million people across the country are in the path of violent storms today that have already unleashed tornadoes, flash floods, and giant hail all across the Central Plains. Severe weather is now expected to push through the Midwest and really the nation's midsection, as you see here, and then into the Gulf Coast and the Southeast. A look at just a bit of the destruction. This is just north of Dallas, where possible tornadoes were reported. The state of Texas has been pummeled for over a week now. We've also learned that at least one person has died in the state due to the impact of this severe storm system. Reports of twisters, in fact, stretch from Texas all the way to Indiana, especially across eastern Oklahoma, where storms toppled trees and power lines. This tells the story, this picture here. One woman, in fact, caught in the middle of the storms in eastern Missouri, says she's lucky to be alive.
I'm just grateful we dodged a big one. I mean, it's so close to the house, and the house has nothing wrong with it. I mean, not a broken window, not a loose shutter. So we really, we were lucky. I'm saying my thank you prayers.
And our Manuel Bojorquez is in Chakota, Oklahoma, joins us now. And man, if you could just take us through the latest conditions there in eastern Oklahoma. We did just hear that story told. I'm sure there are similar stories to be told there.
Yeah, really. Now, the most severe part of that storm obviously has moved past us to the east. Now you can see the sun is out, but not without leaving some damage behind. Take a look behind me. You can see this large tree that crashed down in the middle of this road here in Chakota. There are power lines down just in front of this church over here, and you can see where the part of this power pole ended up right here. People are waking up here, trying to assess the damage. Medical clinic here in the middle of town lost its facade, or part of its facade, and it may have gone on to strike other buildings in the main part of town as well. So this will be a day to really evaluate how bad things are, really start to clean up, and also for the National Weather Service to confirm whether indeed a tornado hit here, whether these were straight line winds. People do think this was a tornado, but we're still waiting for confirmation of that.
We are looking at some aerial photos right now that just tell a very grim story. Are people, you mentioned the medical clinic there was struck, are people getting to the best of your knowledge, the help they need at this hour?
To the best of our knowledge, they are. And here's what will help in this situation. State officials might be able to pinpoint the areas that need the help because this wasn't extensive damage across the state. So as long as they know where people need help, they'll be able to get the help to them faster. Of course, the biggest help to a majority of the people impacted by these storms will be getting the power restored. So you can imagine that will be a large part of the work today. Power crews out there trying to restore power to tens of thousands of people, not only in Oklahoma, but in other parts of the region and Texas as well, that have lost power because of the storms.
"22 pupils were injured on Thursday after a landslide hit a primary school in South China's Rong'an County of Guangxi Autonomous Region. The landslide occurred in Liuliao village of Fushi Township at noon. It was triggered by persistent rain. The landslide caused the collapse of the walls of the school's classrooms. As of 6 p.m. Thursday, 23 people, including 22 pupils and a staff member at the school canteen, were being hospitalized and in stable condition. 2 of them suffered serious injuries. All the 149 students and 12 teachers in the school have been relocated to safe places. Local officials said that a total of 1,600 cubic meters of rocks on the hill at the back of the school collapsed and rolled down to hit the school. Local government has launched a safety inspection around the site of the landslide to prevent secondary disasters. The school will resume classes next Monday as the county's Education Bureau will arrange a temporary place for students from the school.
Yeah, we actually saw a friend of ours posted some pictures on Facebook, so we thought it's not something you see every day, so we thought we'd come pay our respects.
We drove from Bristol to come down and see the whale.
Kind of had a lot of questions, like how did it get there, and what do you do with it now? Like, do you study it? Do they burn it? Do they leave it there?
It's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. It doesn't smell as bad.
We did miss the end of school, but I figure that this is school in action. I brought them down to just pay respect to the whale and also to learn. It's very scientific. It's not every day that you have a whale that washes up onto your beach, and there's a lot that we can learn from these majestic creatures.
The second we had seen that it was down here, we woke up this morning, older brother came by and was like, let's go check it out. I was like, let's do it. Its size, really how big it is when you're standing next to it. Like I said, right now the odors also is something amazing. You don't smell that quite often, but its size is amazing.
This is life or death.
Senator Ron Wyden sees firsthand that school kids in Seaside are likely sitting ducks if the big one hits the coast. Welcome to KOIN 6 News at 11. I'm Chris Holmstrom. The senator toured the schools that sit a few hundred feet from the sea, built before anyone studied the dangers. Jennifer Dowling joins us now with more on how vulnerable the kids actually are in that area. Jennifer.
Good evening, Chris. The superintendent says Seaside is the most vulnerable community should a tsunami hit Oregon, and the kids are in that direct line of fire.
A lot of people probably will not make it out of the building.
Seaside High School students like Taylor Barnes are very aware of how close their school sits to the sea and the possibility they would die in this building if the big one hit.
It will not stand. A lot of people will be trapped, and the water will come and people are going to be drowning alive.
We need to bring it up on the hill.
Seaside's superintendent showed Senator Ron Wyden the danger firsthand today.
Unfortunately, we know that it's a very, very sad story waiting to happen.
Students would only have about 15 minutes to get 1.3 miles over the bridges to safety, if they are still standing.
The bridges in our area were not built to withstand a 9.0, and so what this means is that our students in the schools, if they can escape the unreinforced masonry buildings that will collapse, they will try to get across where there used to be a bridge, and that bridge may not be passable.
Students have been raising money to try to build a new school on higher ground, but it's slow going. Doug hopes the federal government will do its part as well.
I'm also on the Senate Budget Committee, which is the first place where you look to start making these changes.
Wyden says he'll take these issues back to D.C. along with data from state researchers that show a tsunami wave could reach 70 to 80 feet. Doug says the federal government had only been preparing for a wave half that size.
The federal government has to do a better job of getting the science right.
Now, Doug says it took about 4 years of research to determine that there could be an 80-foot wall of water coming into that area from a tsunami. The research also helped the school to determine what areas were the safest to build new school buildings in the future. Chris, back to you.
All right, a surprising wedding announcement made by a former lawmaker from Pennsylvania, former Democratic Senator Harris Woolford, coming out in the New York Times. He wrote a column detailing his plans to marry a man. The same-sex marriage coming 20 years after the death of his wife. Woolford says he never thought he'd find love again, but all that changed when he met a young man on a beach in Florida. That was nearly 15 years ago. Now he is 90 years old. His fiancée is 40. They are set to be married on Saturday.
He was married to his wife for 48
For 40 years, and he said that love was real and pure, and he had never thought he could feel that again. And he did find it again with this man.
I am blown away by that story.
It is a really interesting story.
A surprise find on a church's website. Instead of a message from Christ, visitors found a message that purports to be from a terrorist group. It claimed that the website had been hacked. The website has been switched back, but not before causing some concern. 24-Hour News 8's Barton Dieters is in the control room on this story tonight. Barton.
Well, Leon, when members of the 137-member Lamont Christian Reformed Church near Coopersville went to see what was going on the church website, instead they were treated to this.
تمتد ولئن وعدكم أوباما بهزيمة الدولة الإسلامية فلقد كذب
The defaced website banner claims the site has been hacked by the United Cyber Caliphate. There's an actual group with that name formed this year when several pro-ISIL cyber activist groups came together. When it was formed, the group said it would commit acts of cyber terror throughout the world. The group claimed responsibility for defacing sites in Russia, Australia, Saudi Arabia, and Tennessee. On Lamont CRC's website, there was posted a 2014 YouTube video by Abu Muhammad al-Adani, once an ISIL leader in Iraq. He was reportedly injured in a blast by U.S.-led coalition forces in January. Translated, the video makes various threats straight from a comic book villain, replete with promises to break your crosses and enslave your women. I talked to Lamont CRC member Jennifer Bosch, who is in charge of the church's website, who said that she was made aware of the hack Friday night. She said she checked the site Thursday and it was fine. She called the FBI, who she said advised her to shut down the site, which she did as soon as the company that hosts the site opened Saturday morning. The site was rebooted and is now back to normal. Bosch said the FBI did not indicate there was any reason to be alarmed and told her they would get back to her next week. She said the hack was disturbing, but she is not too worried. Now, there's no indication about who is responsible for the hack. It could be someone from overseas or some kid down the street engaging in mischief from his parents' basement. We're waiting to hear back from investigators, and we will let you know what we find out. In the control room, Barton Dieters, 24-Hour News 8.
Barton, any word from church officials on whether they're going to change anything as far as security when they go to church tomorrow?
No, not at this point. The FBI didn't give them any reason to be really concerned or to make any changes at this point. Like us, they're just waiting to hear back about what really happened here.
All right. Barton Dieters tonight. Thank you.
Inside these body bags, the mutilated corpses of two men hacked to death in this apartment in Dhaka in Bangladesh. a gay activist and a friend. One victim named as Hulaz Manan, the editor of Bangladesh's only LGBT magazine. The other, a member of the magazine's committee. An attack described as barbaric by the United States, which had employed one of the men.
We're outraged by the barbaric attack on Mr. Zolhaj Manan, a beloved member of our embassy family and a courageous advocate for LGBTI rights, human rights actually. As you know, he brutally murdered in his home alongside another fellow activist. An act like this simply is beyond words, unjustifiable, inexcusable.
According to police, 6 attackers at least burst into the building screaming Allahu Akbar, God is great. The latest violence on minorities in a country where same-sex relationships are illegal. And the killings just 2 days after this attack, which left a liberal university professor dead in the northern city of Rajshahi. The 58-year-old, a writer of poetry and fiction, hacked to death for some claimed calling for atheism. The Prime Minister blames opposing parties for the violence, which has seen a recent spate of killings. Rights groups say he's not doing enough to protect minorities.
But one thing that's so shocking is that we often speak to these activists. We hear them say that they try to go to the police, they try to ask for protection, but instead the response they get is that we're going to target you, we're going to prosecute you for being homosexual, essentially.
And in the middle of the politics, the slayings continue. Many other bloggers have now left in fear of their own lives. Kate King, Al Jazeera.
At the Park Street Target store. Let me just put this phone in my shirt pocket here. We're going to go inside and talk to them about their new bathroom policy. Sorry. Good, how are you, sir?
Good, how may I help you?
Good. I just came in, I was driving by and I needed to use the restroom and I just wanted to get a clarification on your new restroom policy. Is it true that men are now allowed to use the women's room? I sometimes get... Huh?
You're asking the same question that guest asked yesterday about that.
No, is that not true?
Well,
sometimes I get uncomfortable in the men's room and I just wanted to make sure I was allowed to go in the women's room.
Let me let my AP guy
great.
tell it since he explained it yesterday. Hey, AP Gerard, can I get you the guest service?
Thank you, I appreciate it. Hi, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
What's your name, Gerard?
Gerard.
Hi, my name's Andy.
Okay.
I just came by because I wanted to make sure that I was allowed to use the women's room before I went in.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. That's correct. Yep.
That's fine?
Yes.
Okay. If any of the women have a problem, you let them know that?
Yeah, they can come and we'll speak to them.
Okay.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Yep, no problem.
New tonight, take a look at this video. A Bay Area man goes into his local Target store wanting answers. Why would the mega store create such a controversial transgender restroom policy? This comes on the heels of Target's recent announcement that people who identify as transgender can use whichever bathroom they choose.
That video and Target's policy have come under fire. So far, more than 500,000 people have signed a petition to boycott the big box chain. Paul Mueller is covering that story for us tonight, and he joined us live in St. Petersburg. Paul.
Well, the guy who took the cell phone video thought it was all a hoax, so he came here to this Target not knowing what to expect. He was dressed like what he called an average guy. Tonight, he told me exclusively he got the answers he didn't expect.
I don't have a beef with the transgender community. I'm not on a crusade.
But Andy Parks was on a mission last Friday after Target reiterated its policy, welcoming transgender team members and customers in using the restroom or fitting rooms that corresponds with their gender identity. That's why he went in with his camera rolling.
I just came by because I wanted to make sure that I was allowed to use the women's room before I went in.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's correct. Yep.
That's fine?
Yes.
Okay. If any of the women have a problem, do you let them know that?
Yeah. They can come and we'll speak to them.
He believes the policy could lead the way to criminal behavior.
My problem is with a possibly overbroad policy that may be putting older people or children at risk.
Nathan Broomer, a transgender activist, says that couldn't be further from the truth.
So this idea that somehow crimes are being committed by transgender men and women in the restrooms, which statistically we know that that's false.
So what's fueling the fire here?
I think what's fueling the fire is fear.
The reality, the backlash. The American Family Association put out a petition. So far, 700,000 people saying they'll now boycott the store.
I think it's about people not being comfortable with transgender people in general.
I believe all people deserve human dignity and human rights, but they also deserve safety.
And I reached out to Target tonight to get their response about Andy's video. Still waiting to hear back from him. It's also important to note here, Jen, that Andy never went into any bathroom at all.
That's certainly worth clarifying. But Paul, with all those people promising to boycott Target, is the company backing down in any way?
No, surprisingly to many, they're not caving into any public pressure. But they do want to add that many stores, just like this one right here, there are family restrooms, so that could give a person an added sense of privacy.
Paul Mueller, live for us in St. Petersburg tonight. Thank you, Paul.
The Lakewood baker who refused to make a wedding cake for a gay couple because of his religious beliefs is shot down again. Today, the Colorado Supreme Court decided it would not hear the case. Only on Denver 7, both sides are sharing their reactions with Denver 7's Jacqueline Allen. Jacqueline?
I'm live here at the Colorado Supreme Court, and today the court essentially affirmed the previous ruling that said that baker violated Colorado's anti-discrimination laws when he refused to bake that same-sex wedding cake. But after 4 years of fighting, this may still not yet be over.
We have been married for almost 3 years now, right?
Almost 3 years?
Almost 3 years. No, over 3 years. Yeah, we're almost 4 years.
David Mullins and Charlie Craig may seem like a normal married couple, but the story of their wedding, or at least their wedding cake, has been in the national spotlight for years.
It was just a hard moment. We'd never experienced that treatment before at a business.
It happened here at Masterpiece Cake Shop in Lakewood. Owner Jack Phillips remembers that day too, telling the couple he would not make a same-sex wedding cake because of his religious beliefs. Why is it so important to you?
Because my faith is important to me.
He and his attorney also cite his First Amendment free speech rights.
There is a hypocrisy and a bigotry that we are seeing right now toward people of faith.
But at every stage, judges have effectively ruled that Phillips violated Colorado's anti-discrimination laws.
When a business opens its doors to the public, invites the public in, and says, we're going to serve the public, they can't then discriminate against members of the public.
So now Masterpiece Cake Shop no longer makes wedding cakes at all. And both sides agree this case has national implications, but they have different ideas about what message is being sent.
If they take it away from me, they can take it away from anybody.
It sends a message that the tide of society is moving in the direction of acceptance of LGBT rights.
And that couple says they'll keep fighting because they're representing all of the people that they don't want to be discriminated against. Now, Phillips tells me he is still considering whether he will take his appeal to the next level, which would be the U.S. Supreme Court. Reporting live, Jacqueline Allen, Denver 7.
Showing ISIL fighters in Somalia. It's not been verified, and the Somali government is not yet commenting. But if confirmed, the video would be the first visual evidence of ISIL's presence in the Horn of Africa. CCTV's Abdulaziz Billo has more.
A classic propaganda video at a little over 6 minutes long. It focuses mainly on masked men in uniforms, apparently training for the camera. And then a brief speech by their commander, Sheikh Abdul Qadir Mu'min, congratulating his men and telling them they are the chosen ones. When and where this video was shot is not clear. Mu'min is a former Al-Shabaab commander who switched to ISIL last year. He claims to lead an ISIL unit in Puntland, the region right on the Horn of Africa. The video's release online comes a day after ISIL claimed to have launched its first attack on African Union forces. AMISOM has confirmed a bomb attack on a convoy outside Mogadishu, which caused no casualties. Officials here are reluctant to comment. But in a recent interview, the president said security forces would crush all terrorist groups inside Somalia.
Their style, their color, their slogans, for us does not make any difference. These are evil forces, and the only meaning it has is to be eliminated in the face of the society.
Al-Shabaab also is a sworn enemy of ISIL and has even executed former fighters for defecting. Even so, this video is likely to worry many inside Somalia and beyond, and serve as a rallying cry for would-be recruits, which is exactly what it's designed to do. Abdul Aziz Bilo, CCTV, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Well, let's bring you more now on that story. I'm joined live from Mogadishu by CCTV's Abdulaziz Bilo. Abdulaziz, first off, just how have ordinary Somalis reacted to this ISIL video, and has it yet been verified by authorities?
Well, Lindy, until we came to this live broadcast here, authorities here in Somalia, the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of National Security, the Office of the Presidency, or the Prime Minister, they were still reluctant to comment on this new video, but we are still pushing on this, and we are still awaiting for official verification from Somali authorities on the authenticity of this new video. But interestingly here in Somalia, majority of the young people that we talk to, they have different perspectives of this new video that was released by ISIL. One thing that they are saying is that this is not the first time that militant group here in Somalia, be it ISIL or be it Al-Shabaab, has launched a video. Maybe they're saying that this is just a pure propaganda video aimed at recruiting more recruits to join their cause. But one thing they're saying is that if their predecessors, the Al-Shabaab, were not able to recruit more people using their videos, then this means that they will not be able to get more fighters. Now, Lindy, in the video, as you have seen in the report, clearly shows a number of young men who are actually few in number compared to Al-Shabaab videos. So basically, that is what young people here in Somalia are saying, that this is just a cheap propaganda aimed at by ISIL to create more support and lure young people into joining their cause. But one thing that experts here, security experts, are noting is the fact that in the video we can be able to see clearly Sheikh Abdul Qadir Mu'min. Now he's the only Al-Shabaab commander who has come out openly to challenge Al-Shabaab and to say that he's creating another base in Puntland, and this time under ISIL, different ideologies from the Al-Shabaab. So authorities are saying the fact that Sheikh Mu'min is in this video shows that indeed ISIL is trying to create a foothold here in Somalia, and indeed the Somali authorities should act fast on this before it becomes too late.
Well, as you say, maybe a cheap propaganda for some, but certainly ISIL is a harsh reality for others, particularly so in North Africa. Abdulaziz, we'll be back with you in just a moment, but first, we're getting reports now out of Libya that between 12 and 16 Egyptians have been killed in what could have been an attack by ISIL. Let's bring in CCTV's Adel Al-Marouki now with more. He is live for us in Cairo. Adel, can you tell us exactly what may have happened in Libya and whether or not this is an ISIL attack?
Well, Lindy, it seems that so far it is not an ISIL attack. It seems to be, from the reports we're getting that it was basically one of the regular procedures that has become, of course, regular of human trafficking from Libya to Italy or the Southern Europe area in general. And it seems that a fight between Egyptians who were allegedly illegally leaving Libya and trying to enter Europe. They had a dispute with the drivers, and the dispute got out of hand. It turned violently, and they killed the driver and two of his assistants. They tried to take the vehicle and flee, but in retaliation, the driver's group and the alleged smugglers or traffickers opened fire on the vehicle, killing 16 at least Egyptians, or as you said, it's still from 12 to 16. It is within that range, but also we know that the other Egyptians have fled from the vehicle, and there has been some chases. That we're getting from inside Libya at this moment, but on the other hand, we still don't have any official confirmation from the Egyptian government. The Foreign Ministry says it's still investigating these news and trying to confirm that, in fact, those killed were Egyptians.
All right, we'll come back to you in just a moment, Adel, but first, let's go back to you, Abdulaziz. Abdulaziz. Of course, there is concern when it does come to ISIL that their presence is growing in Somalia. Has there been any action or response from the African Union mission in Somalia?
Well, Lindy, the ISIL militants who have no base at all here in Somalia presently actually claimed yesterday that they actually carried out their first ever successful attack in Somalia. Actually, the attack was never successful, but they're trying to put it as if it was successful. Actually, they targeted a convoy of African Union forces who were passing around an area called KM13. They were on their way to Afgoy. Now, the AMISOM spokesperson told us that all soldiers have been accounted for. None of the AMISOM vehicles were damaged in that improvised explosive devices after detonated on the road there. But one thing that is much more interesting is that AMISOM over the years has been under attack from Al-Shabaab. So definitely experts are saying that this should be more worry for AMISOM in the sense that Al-Shabaab recently carried out 3 deadly attacks on 3 separate African Union bases, inflicting heavy casualties. So definitely these experts are saying that this will be more concern for the African Union forces, and they need to speed up their game and dislodge the Al-Shabaab and prevent them from creating bases, and especially ISIL, because of it's becoming the local offshoot recently, because in the light of Boko Haram that is causing out deadly attacks in Nigeria with support from the ISIL militants in Syria and Iraq. So if they are seeing that ISIL will get support from Boko Haram and the ISIL militants in Syria and Nigeria, here in Somalia, then definitely this should be a more concern for the African Union soldiers. But for the Somali government, the president says that his forces and will put all his powers in place, and no terrorist will have a safe haven here in Somalia. So definitely these experts are saying that this issue should be addressed as early enough so that we can avoid having multiple fronts, one that is run by Al-Shabaab and another one that is run by ISIL. So and authorities here hope that all this will be put to an end before elections in September.
All right, Abdulaziz Bello, live for us there in Mogadishu. Thank you for that update.